I don't know what it was about that text message that made my stomach tighten, but the instant I read it, I knew something was off. Sweetheart, please come over at 7. We have something wonderful planned, dear. It was the first red flag. Sophia hadn't called me darling in years, not sincerely anyway. It was usually Daniel, or, when she was in one of her moods, a tightly clipped D. But darling? That was a phrase she saved for when she wanted something. And something exceptional. Yep. I understood exactly what that meant. It never meant good. It never meant a considerate surprise. Or a warm, emotional moment between us. Every single time she had used such terms in the past, I'd ended up either signing something, paying for something, or cleaning up someone else's mess. I sat back, in my office chair, rereading the words. My thumb lingered over the keyboard. I could ignore it, pretend I never saw it. But that wasn't an option, was it? If I didn't show, she'd make a scene. She'd contact my assistant. She'd find a way to make me the bad guy. And I already knew the game Sophia was playing. I gazed around my office, my sanctuary. I had built this firm from the ground up, hard hours, sleepless nights, calculated risks that had paid off. The company bore my name, my blood, sweat, and sacrifice. And Sophia, well, she had enjoyed the fruits of my labor. The moment we got married, she stopped working, claimed she wanted to focus on us, which, at the time, I had mistakenly assumed meant our relationship. Turns out, us was merely a code word for expensive. Shopping sprees, charity luncheons, and overpriced girls' excursions with women whose names I barely knew. Still, I didn't say no. Not at first. I wanted to be the provider, the husband who gave his wife the world, and maybe that was my worst mistake. I groaned, rubbing the bridge of my nose. PM. I checked my watch. That gave me a few hours. A few hours to decide if I was going in blind or walking in with my eyes wide open. I pulled up my phone and called Mark, my longest and most reliable friend. "You free tonight?" I asked as soon as he picked up. "Depends," he answered. "You in trouble?" I let out a dry chuckle, something like that. Mark had been around long enough to witness my marriage go from passion to tolerance to cold, quiet anger. He never said "I told you so," but I knew he wanted to. When he met Sophia for the first time, he had pulled me aside and said, "She's got an agenda, man. Guard your back. I should have listened." "Tell me what's wrong," he said. I gave him the short version, the text, the unexpected warmth, the special plans. He let out a low whistle. "That woman never does anything without a motive. You think she's got something cooked up?" "She usually does." "You need backup?" I hesitated. "Not yet. But stay by your phone. If I need an exit strategy, I'm calling you." "You got it," he said. And then, after a pause, "Dan, be careful. She's not dumb. She's desperate." And that was the problem. Desperate people do reckless things. I spent the next hour combing through my financial records, verifying if there had been any recent transactions I wasn't aware of. Sophia had access to our joint accounts, but I had been savvy, enough to keep my business accounts separate. Still, something told me she was up to something big. Then I checked my home security system. I had cameras set up throughout the house. Not that I expected an intruder, but I liked knowing what was happening in my own home. And what I saw made my blood run cold. There were people inside. Not just Sophia. Strangers. I zoomed in. A man in a suit was rifling through paperwork on the dining table. Another person, a woman, was speaking to Sophia in hushed tones, pointing at the documents. Heart pounded. This wasn't a birthday dinner. This was a setup. I grabbed my keys, took one last deep breath, and made a quiet promise. Whatever she had planned for me tonight, I was going to be 10 steps ahead. Till a few days ago, I might have genuinely fallen for this. I acknowledged, letting the truth settle into the air. I might have been blind enough to sign those documents, to believe the lies you were feeding me. I might have handed you everything, because deep down, I still thought we were a team. I let it linger for a second, and then I smiled softly. Suddenly, I got a phone call. Sophia stiffened. I saw it immediately, the way her entire body went rigid, her throat bobbing as she swallowed. Hard. She knew. And now, she was afraid. I withdrew my phone from my pocket and pressed the screen. The TV behind me sparked to life again. But this time, it wasn't legal documents. It wasn't financial records. It wasn't real estate fraud. It was her, Sophia, in a hotel lobby. And then a moment later, another man stood alongside her, the same man from the restaurant shot. Only this time, there was no space for dispute about what was going on. She reached up, running her fingers up his chest. He leaned in, his hand sliding around her waist. Then she kissed him. Gasps exploded around the room. Someone actually dropped their drink. Sophia wavered on her feet. You had me followed?" she whispered. I smiled. "Of course I did." She reeled back like I had hit her. I kept going. "You thought I was an idiot, didn't you? Thought I wouldn't notice the sudden late evenings? The business meetings that never existed? Imagined I wouldn't notice how distant you'd become? Assumed I wouldn't check your credit card transactions or ask why you were continuously planning work trips in the same city where he resided?" Her lips parted, but she had nothing to say. So I leaned in just enough for only her to hear. "You should have been more careful," I murmured. Her entire face crumpled. She was caught. Not just with the money, not just with the property, not just with the business, but with another man. And now everyone knew. Her father, Richard, groaned and rubbed his temples. Her best friend, Megan, stared at her like she had never seen her before. Marcus gave out a low whistle. "Damn," he said. "That's got a sting." Sophia whipped around, her face wild with panic. That's not what it looks like." Richard cut her off. "Jesus Christ, Sophia." Her head snapped toward him. "Dad," he shook his head. "I can't even look at you right now." And that was the moment she truly broke. Because Sophia could handle me being angry. She could handle me being done with her. But her father, the man who had always backed her up, defended her, justified all she did, he couldn't bear what he was witnessing. And just like that, she lost her last ally. She staggered, placing a shaky palm to her temple. "Daniel, please, just..." I snatched the divorce papers from my pocket and tossed them onto the table. She stared at them, blank, like her thoughts had fully shut down. I didn't look away. "Sign them." She let out a hollow chuckle. "You can't be serious." I crossed my arms. "Oh, I'm dead serious." She looked around as if searching for someone to step in and save her. No one did. Not her father. Not her friends. Not the visitors who had come here expecting a party. They were all watching her drown. She turned back to me, eyes burning. "If you think I'm walking away with nothing..." I held up a single finger. She froze. "Actually," I said, keeping my voice calm, "that's exactly what's going to happen." Her breath hitched. "You're not getting the house," I continued. "You're not getting the business. You're not getting a damn cent from me." She let out a bitter laugh, grasping at straws now. "You really believe a judge would let you walk away clean?" I grinned. "No, but a judge will be very interested in your attempts at fraud, theft, and real estate manipulation." Her entire body went still. And then I leaned in for the final blow. "Not to mention," I added, "the bit where I have video proof of you committing adultery." Her face turned utterly blank. Then her legs buckled. She caught herself on the table, shivering. I tilted my head. "You still think I'm bluffing?" Silence. She knew I had won. I took the pen and placed it on top of the papers. Then I stepped back and waited. She stayed there, frozen. And after a long, uncomfortable pause, she grabbed the pen and signed her name at the bottom of the divorce paperwork. Her hand trembled as she wrote. She knew there was no coming back from this. The weight of what she had lost piled onto her shoulders like a physical force, pressing down, crushing her under the weight of her own greed. The stillness in the room was oppressive. No one hurried to comfort her. No one defended her. Not even Richard. And when she lifted her gaze to me, there was no more wrath, no more venom, simply defeat. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I checked the signature and placed the documents back into my folder like I had just finished a commercial deal. Which, in a way, I had. Sophia let out a bitter, broken chuckle. "That's it?" she whispered.